All right, so I'm making this video as an addendum to my tutorial I released the other day because I've noticed a lot of beginner runners simply lack some crucial understanding of things that will really help escalate their game. And also, I've noticed a lot of new runners just simply don't know how to practice. So we're going to go over a couple different things in this video. It won't be too long of a video. It'll just be explaining some things that'll help, basically. So, okay. First of all, you need to use save states. If you are practicing right now, if you are trying to learn and you are not using the save state tool, you are just doing yourself a disservice. So make sure you get that. People in the Discord can help you if you need that. I use the standalone one rather than the mod, simply because I've never used the mod. So I just stick with what I know, and this came first. So let's just, I think we're gonna, okay. How should we do this? Let's just go over concepts, and then I'll make individual clips for each save state throughout the run of how I would practice, and then we'll link it all up together. I'll keep this rambling in. Why not? It's fun. Okay, so first of all, major concept: stop aiming with your eyes when you are playing the category. I notice a lot of aiming runners be moving like this. They be jumping. They be going like this with their stick. Oh, I'm jumping. I gotta go right a little bit. Oh no, I'm not gonna land where I want to. I gotta go left. Okay, no, a little bit right. Yeah, stop doing that. It is making you lose speed. And when you lose speed, you lose everything with Amy. Everything about Amy is all about keeping momentum. So like, when you're trying to get somewhere, you want to just be holding basically straight up. Let me pull up my input display so I can see it on my screen here. You don't really want to leave this range of motion ever in the run. Like, unless you're doing something that requires you to, pivot one way or something like that, or like really harshly turn your angle for a specific setup. For anything that requires you just going like straight to the destination you want to go, you can just use the camera and these stick angles to basically do everything you possibly need. You should not be straying outside of these angles very much at all. You should get used to using your camera to help adjust, and for the vast majority of the run, you want to just be holding up, because it's like the least speed you're gonna lose. The more sharply you turn, the more speed you lose, and that's gonna fuck up like a lot of tricks you do. And what do I mean by saying don't aim with your eyes? I mean aim with your brain. Before you get to a trick, you should already know exactly what you have to do when you get to the trick. You should not be approaching a trick and being like, I'll just eyeball it and figure it out, because then you're not going to do something smoothly. You're going to do it all jank and all over the place. You're not going to like move fluidly. So before you get to a trick, think about it. Actually think about the inputs. Think about your actions. And I know that sounds like insulting. You're probably like, I do think about it. I know I have to do the trick. But I can assure you, you're not thinking about it. You need to think about it. Sit down when you fail a trick and think, why did I fail that trick? What did not work when I did that trick? What do I need to do to make that trick work? Every trick, let me think. Every trick is consistent. I can't think of a single trick in the run outside of like when you get the high level stuff, which even then is consistent. It's just difficult. But Amy is a very, very, very consistent character. It's just hard. But everything has a setup. Every single thing in the run has inputs you can do that will make it work. So when you enter a trick, you should already know. Like, for example, if I'm leaving the vent in Act 2 and I need to jump into the bathroom stall, I'm not in that level, but I still know that I come out of the stall going forward. I load into Act 2 and I'm running like this. I'm running like this into the fence wall, or into the vent wall, sorry. I'm holding this angle. Let's see. Let's get against a wall that I can do that on. So, well, none of these are really gonna work because the vent keeps your speed. But anyways, I know that I load into Act 2 and I'm holding this angle, and then I'm gonna jump into the stall and curve my stick and go in, hammer, and I pop out and I'm holding up left immediately. press R a little bit to correct, land on where I need to go. I already know before I go there all the inputs I have to do. I know the inputs for every trick in the run I have to do. And it's not in just like a muscle memory kind of sense. It's like I've spent time thinking about what buttons I have to press. I spend time thinking about what inputs I'm going to do when I get there. I know at the start of Twinkle Park, I'm going to jump like this, curve, and hammer flip over the thing. I know that before I even go there. And every time it's going to be the same. If I load in, I can show you. I don't need to be in the level to know what my inputs are. So I load in, I already know I'm going like this and going over. I already know that. I don't need to jump in and, oh, mash, oh, okay, no, like, oh, I don't load in and go, oh no, I hit the wall, oh no, like, I already know before I load in what I'm doing. So think about it. Think about your actions before you do them. Think about the inputs you have to do for the tricks you're failing when you fail them. Don't just keep blindly trying to do a trick without spending any time understanding it, because you're never going to hit the trick. You're only going to keep getting frustrated and failing, and you're not going to succeed because you aren't learning from your mistakes. You need to learn from your mistakes if you want to improve quickly in this category. Much of your improvement in Amy's story is just about using your brain and thinking about your inputs and thinking about what went wrong. I know this is a very long intro, but I just need to hammer home that, like, you just need to think about what you're doing. You just need to think about what you're pressing. Otherwise, stuff will not work. If you just keep blindly trying things, it will not work. You need to think. Okay, on to the video. Okay, so to start, we're going to talk about save states and how to use them effectively. So the number one most important thing with practicing with save states is that you put them in locations that you will always be in. You want the save states to be in consistent spots that you will always be in, because, so for example, okay, let's say you want to practice the hub movement here. I have just loaded into the act. I'll do this again just for the sake of demonstrating. I load into the act. I have not touched the stick. I have not moved. I would set my save state right here. I would not move a little bit and then set a save state here and then try and learn cream skip from where I set it, because that is not where I'm going to do it from a run. I'm not going to enter cream skip from here in a run. I'm going to enter it from here every single time. So you want your save states to be in consistent spots, so that way when you actually get to a run, you're already used to the trick. You're already used to the setup you will see in the run. And then all you do for stuff like this hub is very basic, right? It's just one save state. So you just keep loading the save state, and that's how you practice your tricks. And you should experiment, you know, with, like, your save state should be the same, but you can experiment with your technique and stuff and figure out what works best for you, etc. But the general idea is that your save state itself is always in a spot that does not change. You can change everything else after the save state, but the save state itself should be in one position that you will always enter in a run, because then you're able to actually, like, practice from what it will really be like, and not just something that only helps in practice. If your save states are in random spots, you're just going to teach yourself bad habits. If your save state is here, it might not seem like that big of a difference, but your movement is going to be different. Your everything is going to change, and what you're getting used to is not what the real trick is. With that said, we're now going to pretty rapid-firely go over every single location for a save state in the beginner tutorial that I would recommend for learning the category. Okay, so let's just get into it. Twinkle Park, very straightforward. Load in, drop a save state. You can practice the beginning movement here from a save state. The camera will be kind to you. If you ever press a save state and the camera starts panning, you could just load the save state again to speed that up. So, like, you just instantly press it to fix that. And then it might not seem like much, but even practicing beginning sections like this will help you in the long run. Next save state in this level is going to be a castle skip save state, and that would be across the pool. I know in the beginner's tutorial you don't do this, but for anyone who's learning castle skip, set it when you're coming across the pool like this, and then you can practice your movement after from a set location, because you don't want to do something like this. You don't want to set your save state down here, because you might not be here every time, but you are going to be crossing the pool. And when you're crossing the pool, you know, you can change where you land, but you just know in general you're going to be in this position at least. So you can practice from one kind of set point. Next spot, if I was practicing castle skip, if you're a beginner, you can set one on the purple roof. Personally, though, I would not recommend it. I would recommend just practicing from back here until you can get all the way past the purple roof. After that, though, the only other save state you need to practice castle skip is one where you flip up from here. I'd set a save state, because then you can practice the final jump and landing up here. That's pretty convenient. Right? Just to practice the landing there. But yeah, that's really it for the Act 1. You just need 3 save states. One here, one here, one here. This will teach you literally everything you need for castle skip. Okay, let's get into Act 2. Of course, I'd set a save state here. You can just practice coming through here. Load back in if you need to, right? The trick, if your camera gets all whack, press it twice. So that's a pretty straightforward one. I would not set a save state anywhere in here, because nowhere in here is going to consistently be the same. I would just play through it. And I would say you don't need a save state in Act 3 at all, because this is all pretty straightforward. But if you want one, I'd maybe set one when you're approaching here. So maybe when you're jumping this way. It's maybe where I'd set it. It's up to you, though. I personally don't think one is needed for this act, but, you know, up to you if you think you need a save state to practice that kind of movement. In general, you want to use your save states to practice tricks or hard parts of tricks to get them consistently. General movement you can usually practice without a save state. Here, drop one right here. Might not seem important, but you want to be able to practice this door movement here. And if you are just like, oh no, I missed, and you try and run back, you're not going to put yourself in the exact correct position that you need to be in. You're going to be all like squirrely. So that's why having a save state is good, because it sets you in like a consistent spot every time. So you can just load in and just practice that. Okay, so not a save state, but for the start here, I would just practice everything from the elevator and also practice learning when you can jump. You don't want to be mashing jump. You want to kind of know. If you watch my hot shelter tutorial, I go over the timing at the start of that video really quick just to explain it. But yeah, you just want to practice the whole intro. I'd say everything up to the pool here. You want to practice from the elevator. So all this stuff. Also, a good tip for the start that I forgot to mention in the beginner tutorial is that when you are going around this corridor hallway, you want to not hug the wall. So hold L, but you want to be like away from the wall. You want to jump away from the wall, because if you touch the wall, you're going to lose all your speed. So all this stuff, you probably don't need a save state for. If you want to practice this door spin, I'd say this is a good spot to set it. Practice landing and doing this, but honestly, practicing spin sucks. So no shame if you just don't want to do that. Absolutely fair. For the vents, I would say save state here when you're coming in. Also, I guess this is a good time to mention, for save states, don't use your left hand to set them. I'm seeing runners who are like letting go of their movement to set their save state. I don't know if that's what you're doing. Don't do that. Use your right thumb to set the save state and keep holding the stick angle, because you want the speed. If you're letting go of the stick to set it, you're not setting a proper save state. Like, you aren't standing here, you're moving forward. So when you load your save state and when you set your save state, you want to be holding the stick already in the angle you're going. So that's just something I thought was like self-explanatory, but maybe not. So be holding the direction you're moving and set the save state with your right hand, and when you load it, be holding the direction you're moving. But yeah, I'd set it here when you're landing from your previous jump, and you can practice this. Pretty basic for that one. I'd say for this one, set it when you're landing. Again, you can practice. Again, my strat here is to run from this land to the green, to the jump, and then use the green as like the visual reference of when I'm gonna jump, and then I just do a full hop. Okay, so that's what you can do. Practice like that. Right? Because if you're getting squirrely on this timing, you can see it changes everything. That's why if you use the visual lineup of the green, you're going to be landing in approximately the same spot every time down here and be able to curve off it easier, in my opinion. So, yep, that's that. For Act 2, it's really basic. We're going to load into Act 2 from this vent, and we're going to set a save state while we're running in the vent. So you can see save state set while we're running in the vent, right? We're holding the direction. We didn't load in and then stop and then do it, right? We didn't stop. We loaded in and set it while we're running. So we have all that speed. And then you can just practice. And if you restart and load in your save state when you restart, you're going to have basically the same cycle. Like, it's going to be a little bit off cycle from what it would be in a real run, slightly, but only by the amount of time between the load in and you loading your save state. So it's really like a negligible difference. Maybe we should talk about some tips for this this vent, because I've been seeing people struggle once they get out of the bathroom. So let's say you clip out, right? You should not be aiming with your eyes here. This is what I was talking about in the intro. When you clip out, when you clip out of here, you know you're going to be holding up left. You know that. You have to go up left. Okay, that's the direction you're traveling. That's where you want to go for the rest of the level. That's where you want to land. So when you come out of here, you don't want to be moving like this and trying to figure out where you want to land, okay? You want to load, or you want to clip out and then hold up left. And then even when it gets squirrely, I think what's happening is the camera being a little bit jank is scaring people. Like, they see the camera get a bit snappy and they don't know what to do. You don't want to worry about any of that. You want to just go up left. And then once you've gone, you can turn and redirect. Okay? So you go up left until you're past the effects of the camera, till you're past the effects of everything, and then you can change your stick angle. Right? So you don't want to come out and be like, oh no, and then oh no, I landed, right? That's trash. You don't want to do that. It's not going to work. Don't aim with your eyes, aim with your brain. You know you have to go up left. You can land and then correct depending on what happens. So if you come out, and I'll try and do this without a drawing on the screen or anything. So you come out holding up left like this, right? The world is your oyster at this point. You can now aim and land anywhere you want on any of these things you want, correct a little bit, right? You can do whatever. As long as you land and you're holding up, you're gonna keep running. So it's like up left till you get past this, and then you can turn your stick and land and run. And then it makes everything over here easier, because once you have the speed out of, or the speed landing, everything kind of falls into place. So you flip up, just immediately jump. Notice how my stick angle is not really moving a lot for any of this. I'm holding kind of like the same general angle throughout most of the trick. It's because you don't want to be doing a lot of sharp movements. You want your angle changes to be smooth and subtle, and then each line you're changing on, you want to hold that line. So like, if you think about the destination you're traveling as point B and the destination you start as point A, each turn should only last like a micro amount of time, right? Readjusting should be setting your path on another straight line. Your line should not be curved or wobbly. Not curved is a bad word. They should not be like squiggly lines. Every line should be a straight line that you're traveling. The points may not be directly straight, right? Going from the vent to here is not a straight line. We had to make turns, but each section of that turn becomes a straight line with our movement and our stick angles we hold. We don't wiggle, we just hold one angle, right? Each of these sections, once we're done, the turning and adjusting portion becomes a straight line. The whole run is a series of straight lines connected by small turns and adjustments. Each section, this fence, see, I'm running in a straight line down it. My stick does not move, my stick does not wiggle. Okay, so we can move on, set up save state 1 and act 2 in the vent. Next save state you don't set until after all this. You come through, you do this, you land, you do all this stuff, right? Next save state you're gonna set is gonna be on this bridge, right? Because you're always gonna land here. You could, in theory, let's go back here. You could, in theory, I'll show you where you could set it, another one if you are struggling with a different part. So this cycle might be a little, okay, no, it's doable. So you could set one when you land up here if you're struggling for whatever reason with flipping over this fence and landing on it. You could set your save state here, but I'd personally recommend setting one on the bridge, because this is pretty easy. Once you have that down, you don't need to practice that section too much. And then the benefit of setting one on the bridge is you can practice this spinny room really easy, right? You hit this, let's pretend you're doing this strat, come down, whatever. Oh no, you failed it. When you restart, you're already right here. You can try it again. So this is a really good spot for your next save state. And you can practice all this stuff on here, right? Over and over, you can do this. Try out different ways to change your stick, ways to adjust your angle, etc. And then later, when you get better, you can use all these same save states to learn the more advanced strats like this one, right? You can do this off the same thing. Here, you don't need any save states for the fence clip or anything like that. I would say for the fence, you still want to practice from this bridge one. You want to use not like an overwhelming amount of save states. You want to use useful save states, right? So that fence one should be good enough for all this stuff, right? When you come through here, etc. If you fail this, you just reload the fence one, because it's a consistent point you're going to be, and it's something you have to practice anyways. And like this movement and stuff, right? The jump in here. Also, I guess maybe I should say another piece of advice for this jump. I only learned this jump for the sake of the tutorial. I've always done the bridge, but I think if you press up left, I think if you press up left when you're approaching the bridge and then you hold R, yeah, like the angle change is better. You can see the door earlier, and that makes jumping a little bit easier, but I'm not sure. This is one of those things where I'd say experiment with it. Yeah, like you can see what I mean. You can if you press up left in that way, you can turn the camera earlier and see the door, and then hold R and get ready to jump into it, etc. But again, just practice, figure out your own method there. Experimentation is going to make you better than any tutorial that you follow. I guess for what did I do? Okay, hold on. Thought I had a save state lined up. We'll just do this quick. Okay, well, you know, can't win them all. I'd say when you're learning pasta skip, it's good to have a save state in the right after the spring. Set one when you're entering this section, because then you can practice the fast strat, right? And how you would do it each time. That'd be my recommendation. But if you want to learn the slow method, you can also set a save state here, even though you're not going to be in a consistent spot. So that's why I don't recommend setting one down here. Because in a run, you're not always going to be exactly here, whereas you are always going to enter this doorway. So I personally would recommend setting one in the doorway, no matter what method you do, and then practicing from there. Just because it's consistent. You're always going to be here, right? Your movement can always be pretty similar from the doorway, whereas it's not always going to be on that tile. So that's good. And then there's only one more save state in the level, and that's right there on the stairs. So you want to set one when you're here, and not when you're... You don't need one like up here. You want one when you're coming up, because then you can practice this movement. Speaking of this movement, it is best to not jump here. You want to run. It's faster to just run and then hammer flip and then flip up like this. So I've been seeing people do something like this, where they come up and they jump and they jump. This is not going to work. There's a bunch of capsules down here. These are what's giving you that speed and ability to turn that speed into a pivot at the top. So you want to just flip and then flip at the top of it, rather than trying to jump and jump and flip. This is never going to work in a million years. You need to flip to the end of it and then flip. And again, you'll notice if you look at the stick, these are not curved lines. These are straight lines. Everything is a straight line. You want to connect all your lines in straight segments. The only things that are curved or wiggly are the brief moments of time where you're changing your stick angle to set up the next line. And then once you're on the angle you need, you hold that angle. You don't recorrect. You tell yourself in your brain, even though you want to recorrect, that you don't need to, okay? Just remind your brain, I don't need to recorrect. I know this angle is going to work and it's going to be fine. Even if the camera moves, even if it gets a little weird and you're unsure about it, you don't need to, okay? Be confident in your movements. All you need is confidence in your movements and the understanding and the thought that you already did before you even entered the level. The thought you've done when you screw up a trick and you think, okay, what went wrong? Why didn't that work? Etc. Those things, thinking about that is what's going to turn you into a runner who's capable of doing those things, okay? You're never going to figure it out by just saying, like, I'll just eyeball it and wing it on the fly. That will never work. You need to think about your actions. Think about your inputs. Think about your movement. If you're not thinking, you're not learning, and if you're not learning, you aren't going to get better, okay? I really just need to drive that home. Okay, we're going to bang out all the hub movement from this point on in a row. Here, you don't need a save state. You jump into a single load zone. Actually, well, let's go back. Let's talk about something interesting. So, depending where the camera is facing here, when you load into Act 2, will change the camera angle you see. This is the camera angle you're going to see, okay? So, when you load in, just know that the camera angle is going to be jank. Most people hold L and go from there, but when you're practicing this section, it's better, in my opinion, to leave and to just re-enter and hold L, because that'll set the camera where you want it to be. It'll set it to what it's like in a run. Let's demonstrate what happens if you enter and you're holding R instead. See, this is something I think most runners in general don't know, or don't think about rather, but the camera button you hold when you load into an area actually changes what you see. See, I'm holding L, load into this. Let's exit. Set the camera back to where it was. Jump in, holding R. See, it changes, okay? So most people are going to enter with the L camera angle, but it is, of course, personal preference. So the way I would practice is set a save state here, but then when you want to redo it, leave and re-enter, and then just hold the button you should be holding, right? So you exit, fix your camera, and then you jump in and you hold the button. Don't know why it didn't work that time. Anyways, in general, this section of hub is a little trickier to practice because the camera is different. But yeah, just make it so you have this angle or the other angle, and then stick to practicing with either L or R. And then, of course, for this movement, it'll take time to get, and you can practice in runs and figure out your own kind of stuff. But that one save state should be all you need for this hub. It's, I mean, pretty short. Of course, it's going to be a similar scene through all this. You load in, you set a save state, and you practice. You try and reset the camera angle if you can to what it's like, but there's not really a way to do it too effectively for those kind of hubs, just because the camera's different, and the camera being different affects everything, right? So again, you load in, drop a save state right there. Now you can practice. But even in the hub, you'll notice the stick is not curving or wiggling, even from the hub, right? So we are not going like this. We're not moving like this. We're not serpentining. Everything is going to be straight, smooth angles with gradual turns. If you need to turn left, for example, you only turn left. Your stick never crosses back over the vertical division line. Like if you think of a straight up or down line on the stick, right? When you are practicing, not just practicing, when you're playing in general, if I need to go to the right here, why would my stick ever go left? Right? Like, if I need to go to the right of where I am, why would my stick ever go back to left? It should not. In theory, I should only be turning right. You would only have to turn left if you screwed up. But if you screw up, it's better to like slightly adjust later than it is to go like, oh, I need to go hard left to correct because I screwed up. You should just commit to whatever. Okay, I went too far right. I land. Next jump, you can go a little left and correct it, right? You don't try and fix it in the first jump. If you're still in a jump, don't change angles because you're just going to lose speed, and that's just not helpful. So yep, set the save state there, put the camera behind you. You can go from there and practice. You'll get most of your hub practice in runs. Really, the only one that you need like genuine time spent with is in the jungle, and would you believe it or not, you're setting your save state up here. Yes, for the whole thing. Even if you screw up later, load that first save state. The hub movements you want to practice all is just one unit. Good rule of thumb for jumping on this rock is if you flip when you get to that tree, you'll always hit it, right? So if you flip when you get to that tree and you know you're going to land on it, even if it looks like you're not, then you have nothing to be afraid of, okay? If you know your angles, you don't need to second guess your eyes. So I'm jumping, right? Running, flipping. Oh, it looks weird. It's still fine, okay? It's always going to be fine. Pause buffering kind of made it weird, but I'll show you without the pause buffer. I thought that might help illustrate it, but you just don't see enough. Let me show you. Okay, jump at the tree, right? You know you're going to land on the rock. Always going to be fine. Don't use your eyes and get scared. Just use your brain. When you know your cues and your visual references, you have nothing to worry about because you know it's always going to work. Okay, and then that's the hub. Okay, and this one's very straightforward. This is the last save state in the run. I skipped final egg because, let's be honest, if you're at a point where you're learning wall float, you should know how to use save states, okay? I feel like don't need to go over it for anything else. Here, set a save state somewhere in this general area. That's basically it. And then just get used to knowing where you gotta be to get on this fence or on this rock. You could also, it's actually probably better to set a save state up here rather when you enter. Probably better to set your save state like here. And then you could just practice the same kind of stuff. Knowing when to flip, when to run on this rock, etc. And again, feel free to experiment. Watch the top runners, see what they do here. Try it out for yourself to get the hang of it. Again, it's basically the same idea. You're just trying to make as direct of a line as you can. 2 hammer flips and a hop into another hammer flip. Right? Eventually you'll get to a point where you just know what to do. That was actually really bad what I just did, but you get the point. I guess you can also use a save state in this next area too, if you want to practice this hub. Set a save state right here. You can practice this whole segment. Obviously, you don't need any save states on 0. You just restart. You know, actually, let's talk about... There's some things we could go over here quick that I forgot to mention in the tutorial. Wow, you gotta climb so high to hit that load zone. Okay, so first of all, you want to get on top of this, right? And jump down. Here, you want to go to the right and hammer flip on the steeper part of this slope here. So, like, if you just go straight forward and hammer flip, it's pretty good, you know? Nothing, like, wrong with it. But if you come from same angle, but you just go onto this bit on the right, it's just better. It's just a better setup. Here you can just run on this step and jump in. And most importantly, when you load into this this section here with the ladder, you want to be in the air. So that's why we jump, because I'll show you what happens if you don't. Let's say you just walk in. if you're jumping, you're gonna grab the ladder for a second. You're not gonna be able to just jump to the right. Whereas if you load in and you were in the air when you went in here, then when you load in here, you could just jump immediately without grabbing the ladder. And that's it. That's the tips.